Hello everyone and welcome to another Houdini tutorial. Today we're going to be doing something just pretty simple, pretty fun. We're going to be making a crystal ball and then having my face appear inside it. And you can use whatever footage you want. It doesn't have to necessarily be a face or anything like that. But it'll be interesting to see how to import video footage into Houdini to use for your projects. So let's get started by making a new project and saving it. All right, now that we have that all set up, let's go ahead and create our crystal ball. So first we'll just drop down a simple sphere. We're going to keep it just as a 1-to-1 ratio, just so everything is a uniform shape. And let's make this a polygon mesh. And we'll just do it really smooth, 100 rows, 100 columns, easy peasy there. That's basically our crystal ball right there. Just so it plays nice with our collision, with our smoke inside the orb, let's convert it to a VDB while we're here. So I'm dropping down a VDB from polygons. And this will turn our polygons into voxels. You can see right here. I'm going to smooth it out just a little bit. You can see some rigid areas here. It's not exactly the most smooth shape that I would like. I think our smoke might go through those cracks and it won't look that smooth. So I'm going to lower the voxel size just a hair. Let's try 0.05. Now all I need to do is drop down a null, and we'll just call this out. Sphere collision. Okay, and that's it for our crystal ball. We actually don't want to see the VDBs, we want to see our polygons. So we'll hop up one, let's call this ball, and let's make our rack now for our crystal ball. Rack. And we'll start out with a simple circle. Let's put this on the other plane. And we want this to be open, so let's make this a polygon and a open arc, and bump up the divisions, let's say maybe 50, and let's do a poly wire to make this a little bit more extruded out. And you can play around with these settings right here to make it however smooth you want, however round you want it to be. Looking at this, I do want my rack to be just a little bit lower, so let's drop this down. Like, we just want the ball to be resting on top of it, so maybe like is it 0.08? Yeah, let's do that. And we'll decrease the uniform scale. That looks good for now. Okay, so now we can adjust the wire radius. We can do smooth points. We can do extra divisions. I'm actually going to do quite a lot of divisions, maybe 16, lower the wire radius just a hair more. That looks pretty good to me. Now we can go ahead and make our legs. So there's many ways to do this. I just put down a tube. And I just kind of, I looked at the round circle holding the ball, and then I adjusted the tube, so it's roughly the length that a leg would be. Let's increase the, make it a polygon. We're gonna want a ton of rows because we're going to be bending it into a curl, so let's do like 100, and then maybe 50 columns is fine. And we'll transform this so it's in the right position. We'll just kind of place it. I want 4 of these legs. Let's increase the scale. And we do want our tubes to have end caps as well, so hop up there. Now let's drop down a bend, and we're just going to curl these legs basically. So we have to adjust its capture point, because right now it's going to bend right here and it's going to give us really wonky results. So if we scroll down to our capture origin, we have to move this over. Not quite. We just want to capture this end leg, but we do want it to be a little bit wider as well. All right, so these were the parameters that I ended up with to get this curl at the bottom of the leg. I think it's a good curl. I don't know. I think it gives me the results that I'm looking for. So let's go ahead and copy this 4 times. I'm just holding Alt and left clicking each bend, and that'll give me 4 different legs. Now we can just drop down a transform for each one of those and place them around the rack, and that'll give us our 4 desired leg positions. We can just rotate it on the Y-axis. Right here. So let's just do it 90 degrees on every one, make it nice and uniform. Negative 90, we'll do this one negative 180. And this one negative 270. And when we merge them all together, we should get our rack. Looks like I need to bump it up just a hair so it looks like it's all fitting. So we can just do this in the transform right here. We can translate it by its Y. And that'll move everything because they're all using that same transform node. There we go. Let's just drop down a null and we have our ball and our rack all modeled and ready to go. Out rack. So what's next is to emit smoke into our crystal ball. We just need to drop down a emitter for that. So let's do a geo and we'll call this one emitter. Dive inside, and inside our sphere, we just want to have another smaller sphere as our emitter. We'll drop down the uniform scale. It doesn't have to be pretty or anything. We're just going to be turning this ball into smoke. So one thing you need to know is depending on how big this sphere is how much smoke you're going to get in your simulation. And obviously when we're down the line and we're rendering, we can increase or decrease our smoke density, but that is something to be aware of at this stage. You can always go back and adjust it if you want more smoke, increase this uniform scale. There's other ways to do it, but this is just a quick, simple way to do it if you're just looking for an easy way to adjust how much smoke is emitted into your crystal ball. So I'm going to use the shelf tools. We'll just do the emitter sphere up here in the Pyro FX. Click on billowy smoke. There we go. And it created a couple of nodes for us. If you've seen any of my other tutorials with Pyro FX, you're familiar with these. We have our DOP network that has all of our Pyro solvers, our gravity, everything like that. And then we have our Pyro import, and this is just showing what is happening in the auto DOP network. So we're good to take off this emitter display flag. We don't need to see that for now. And if we just hop inside, we hit play, we get some smoke. Perfect. There's a couple parameters we need to adjust here. In our Pyro node, let's just up the division size for a second because we want this to load really quick. We're going to be messing around, playing around with it, trying to get the desired results that we want. So we'll increase that for now. We'll lower it later. The other thing you want to look at is the Pyro solver. This is going to give you the swirls and effects that you want. But let's actually drop down the static object of our actual crystal ball because we want to see what our smoke acts like when it collides with the outside ball. So let's make a static object. And then we just wire this into our merge. Looking good. Inside here, we need to go to our collisions tab. Our physical tab, everything looks good. Collision tab. For the collision detection, we want to use a volume collision because we're colliding with volume of the smoke. And then we want to hop down to our volume. Let's see. Mode, we want it to be a volume sample. Uniform division, we want it to be the same division scale as our VDB. So if we go to our ball here and we look at our VDB from polygons, you remember I decreased this voxel size. So we want it to be 0.05. 0.05. We want to invert this because the smoke is colliding with the inside of the object. And down here, we need to find our proxy volume. So let's go in here. Let's find our ball, out sphere, collision. So when we hit play, it should collide with our sphere. And it does. Perfect. No problems there. Okay, so now this part is just kind of trial and error. You're going to want to go into the Pyro Solver, and you're going to want to play with these parameters right here, and also the shape. So it's just trial and error to get the desired effects that you want. For instance, I'm going to decrease the cooling rate quite significantly because I want a lot of the smoke to be in there most of the time. So we'll do 0.1 buoyancy lift. I don't want the smoke to rise straight up. I want it to just kind of float around inside the sphere. So I'm just going to make a teeny tiny lift there. We don't need to worry about combustion because we're not dealing with flame, but in the shape, here's a couple things that we want. We want to decrease the dissipation because I don't want it all to go away pretty quickly. Let's affect the disturbance. Maybe we can, yeah, let's leave it there for now. That looks actually fine to me. We do want some shredding, and if you're curious what they are, just highlight over them. This says pushes and pulls the velocity field based on the gradient of heat field to create the streaks, separations, and licks of typical fire. And we just want a little bit of shredding, maybe like 0.3. I think we're good with sharpening. We do want turbulence inside because we want the smoke to be moving around. So let's increase the turbulence actually kind of significantly, maybe 5. And then let's see, confinement, boost swirls where they exist, increases curliness of the simulation. That sounds good. We'll leave that at 4. So this is all just kind of off the top of my head. We're just going to have to play around with it, hit play, see what it looks like. Here you can, I know up here is just a simple number that you can increase and decrease, but you can also go into more depth for each one. So in the turbulence, you can increase the swirl size, things like that. I actually want it to be pretty swirly, maybe like 0.6. Pulse length, like how often it does it. See, this doesn't affect anything. It's just it's a different thing. It's a different way for the simulation to start, basically. So the different seed, it'll still have all the same parameters, but it'll just start in a different position. Like it'll go in a different direction, basically. Turbulence, we want a lot of turbulence. That's really what you want to mess with, is this turbulence here to get the desired shapes that you want. Let's hit play, see what this looks like. Okay, so do you see right here, this bounding box is actually blocking off our smoke. Well, let's go into our smoke object, and right here we can adjust the bounding box. So we want the Y to be below our sphere, so then it won't be cut off by this bounding box here. And then we can also adjust the resize container if it's not catching up with the smoke. Let's see if it does it. No, it's doing a pretty good job keeping up with the smoke. Sometimes when it's increasing right here, as the smoke gets bigger, it goes so fast that the box doesn't increase in time, and it kind of cuts off on the smoke. You can see it's kind of close to doing it right there. Oh, yep. So see how it cuts off right there? We can actually increase the padding here a little bit just so it doesn't do that. Let's increase it like 0.2. See what it looks like. Okay, so that might actually be because of the bounding box itself. So let's go to our pyro here. We're just going to increase the increase the size of this box so it never collides with it. This is the max length that your box will work with. So you don't want it too big because it'll take too long for your simulation to run, but you do want it big enough that the smoke simulation won't collide with the walls on the outside. So you have this outside box, and that's what this resize container is affecting. And then you have this box in the smoke object, and that's as big as the resize container will get. So you just want to make sure that it doesn't hit the walls of any of your boxes. That's a big no-no. So we have our smoke. It seems pretty contained. I actually wonder if it's emitting too much smoke. Maybe I want to decrease the emitter here. Something, let's try 0.15. That looks pretty good. I think I'll decrease the division size now just so I can really see the shape of the smoke. Right now it's just a big blobby sphere. Let's decrease the division size now. Let's try 0.02. And you can see how significantly it increases the time for it to cache. I'm gonna hit pause right there, just so I can see what it looks like in real time. So it looks like it's filling up maybe a little too fast. One other thing you can do besides decreasing the emission of smoke, you can go into the pyro solver and go in simulation, increase the cooling rate and the dissipation. So let's bump the dissipation to 0.04, increase the cooling rate maybe like 0.15. I don't want to affect it too much because I really do like what it looks like. I'm just worried that by the time we get to our full 10 seconds, maybe the ball will be a bit too full of smoke. So in the shape, I actually do think I want to increase the swirl size a little bit, a hair. And let's try this, see what it looks like. Okay, I'm pretty happy with those results. They look pretty crystal ball-y, smoky, I guess. that does give me the cool desired smoke-filled results that I was looking for. So I think I'm happy with that. I'm going to bump down the division size just one more because I am officially pleased with it. So we're good to go ahead and cache this out. Let's go to our OBJ, up inside our pyro import, and I'm going to drop down a file cache right here on my .import. Hit the display flag, and let's go ahead and cache this out. We will just call this one smoke. Save to disk, and I will be back when this is all done. Well, we're about 16 minutes in, frame 105 it's looking like. My computer's getting a little long in the tooth, so it's taken a while at, what do we do, 0.01 with our division size, so it's going to be a little while. I figure while we wait, we can record the footage that we want to have in our crystal ball. So we'll just move that over to the side for now, and let's bring up a camera. And I'm not exactly camera ready here, so okay, so here's my webcam. We're just going to do a simple recording. Let's see, go to our footage, and I'm just gonna look around real dorkily, and we'll just put that into our crystal ball. So I'll just record it. Okay, here we go. I think that was good enough. I made myself look like a fool. Okay, let's check out what this looks like. Okay, here we go. And that was about... yeah, that'll be good. I think that'll be long enough. It's about 8 seconds, 9 seconds long. I want my picture to fade in, and I want the whole simulation to be about 10 seconds I want the whole simulation to be about 10 seconds anyway, so I'm happy with that. We're going to close up the camera. You guys don't have to look at my ugly mug anymore. Now we have to convert this over into an image sequence, because right now we just have a video file, so we have to convert it. That's the only way it really plays nice with Houdini. So I use Premiere to do this. You can use whatever software you're more comfortable with. We're just going to export our video file into a TIFF sequence. All right, we'll import our video file here. Okay, here we go. I'll just skip to where I want it to start recording, where I smile like a creepy weirdo. Cut that off. And then where I stop. Okay, that gives us 9 seconds of footage. Man, my camera does this weird thing with the lighting. It like pulses in and out. But I think that might actually work in our favor as for the crystal ball. Okay. So now we have to export this, file, export, media, You want to make sure that this is a TIFF. Let's find the output of our YouTube crystal ball. We'll save it right here. Actually, let's make a quick folder because we don't want all of our image sequence to be outside. We'll call this folder image sequence, and maximum render quality, and export. So if we go to our folder, we have our image sequence. Perfect. Okay, so we're all ready for that on that front. Looks like we are at frame 134, so it's still gonna be a while, folks. I'll be back when this is all done. All right, at last we have it all cached up. I think we're good to load from disk. We can delete this .io. We don't need it for this particular simulation. File cache. Let's just skip ahead, see what it looks like. Nice and smoky. Okay, I think we're good there. So let's hop up one. Let's take off the display flag on this pyro import. We don't need it for this next step. I'm going to import the footage and display it inside our glass ball here. So let's do a geo, and we'll call this one footage. Dive inside. And today we're going to be working with something I've never really talked about before, and it's called a COP2 network. And this is what we're going to use to input our footage into Houdini. So we'll hop up one and dive inside. And now we put in a file into our COP2 net one. And it'll just be, right now, the default picture is this butterfly. And we can go to our file here and go to, let's see, our image sequence. And we have our sequence right here. Hit accept. And now it'll play our image sequence in Houdini. So to make it go a little bit faster, we can decrease the resolution by just a half. Just for now, we'll bump it back up to full when we're all happy with how we like it, just like the smoke simulation. And in here, we can drop down, or well, let's hop up one and drop down a transform. And I want just my head to really be in this circle here. So let's look at our ball. And I'm already going to apply just like a typical glass material to it. So it'll be see-through, but then we can still see the circle to get the proper dimensions that we want our head to be displayed in. Glass right here. And we want our ball, render, material, glass. So let's bump up our footage. I want my big stupid head to be there. It's not stupid. That was very mean. Right there. I kind of want my legs to be facing this way. That's why I turned it. Let's just turn it like 45 degrees. Okay, now that we're happy with our footage, we have it the right angle that we want to cut out all this excess footage right here. We just want it to be the circle. So let's go to our footage, and now we want to transfer these colors onto a circle with points on it. And you'll kind of see what I mean as we go along. So let's drop down a circle. We'll hit the template right there, display flag right here. And we rotated it, what was it, 45 degrees. Okay, now I want to scatter a bunch of points onto this circle. Let's say quite a lot, maybe like 150,000. Let's do even more than that. Okay, we're just like a ton of circles here, or a ton of points onto this circle. And we want our footage in our crystal ball to kind of move, kind of feel like it's alive, like it's floating in the ethereal plane. So let's jitter up these points a little bit. Like, let's make the footage feel like organic, like it's just floating there. So we'll do a point jitter. And you see how much it's spreading out. I don't want it like that much, so let's lower the scale here just a little bit. I just want to make sure that it's still fitting in the ball. So I think I want the circle to be just a little bit smaller. Looking at this, let's drop down the uniform scale pretty significantly. Okay, that gives us the results that we're looking for. Point jitter, and then do you see the seed? We talked about seed. It's just like it's the same parameters, just in a different starting position. But I want this to constantly move. So we're going to actually type in a quick expression. We want it to be $FF. So the seed is to represent what frame it is. So if we're on frame 37, then our seed will be 37. So as it goes along, our points are going to also move along because the seed is constantly changing every single frame. Now let's we're just going to adjust the P scale of our points because our points are actually going to be bigger than what we want. So let's do a quick point wrangle. We want the attribute P scale to equal 0.2. And we can adjust that later. Oh, forgot the semicolon. Let's save it. I just want to render, see what the points look like while they're rendered, see if they're too big. Okay, so you see how huge these points are? They're just big old balls. So I actually meant to do 0.02. Still too big. 0.01. Still too big. 0.002. Okay, that's more what we're looking for. I'm gonna do 001. Looks good. Let's drop down the uniform scale even just a little bit more, like 0.0. Let's use 0.7. Okay, I think we're good to transfer our color attributes onto these points. So if we look at our footage here, if we click on the eye, you'll see that we have 3 point attributes. We have the alpha, we have color, and we have point. So we want to transfer the color attribute on each of our points with our footage. We want to transfer them over to our point jitters, our jittery points that we made on our circle. So let's do a attribute transfer. Copy to, no, we want to transfer from, and do this here. And now we have our footage. Look at that face. Okay, so as it goes along, our points are going to move around. It's going to look kind of more interesting, like it's floating in there. And it's just transferring onto those points there. Perfect. So by default, it does the color attribute, but if you're trying to transfer a different attribute, you type it in here. We'll just do a CD. You can also change different conditions. For instance, if you want it to maybe blend a little bit, if you want to increase the kernel radius, the distance threshold, that's all done here. I just like the default look. I think that what gives us the result that we want. So now we're good to drop down a null, take off this template, and we'll call this one out footage. So we have our smoke, we have our footage. What else? Let's drop down some lights. So we can do a quick environment light. And you can add any HDRI that you want. I'm just going to do like an indoor light and an indoor environment map. And then we probably want something like a spotlight. Like when I picture a crystal ball, I picture like a beam of light shining down on my footage. So let's decrease the environment light, something like really low, like a 0.1 for now. And then our spotlight, we want to rotate, like just so it's facing like straight down, and increase the transform right here. We want it to just like shine right down onto it. Our light, we can decrease the cone angle, so it's just like a direct spotlight onto our crystal ball. Now, we can probably, let's see, let's do like a table for it to be sitting on. We'll call this table. Circle. This is a polygon. Increase the divisions. Let's just decrease, lower it on the Z scale here. Increase the uniform scale. Make it like right in the middle of the table. When I picture a crystal ball, that might be too big. Yeah, something like that. And then we'll just make it thicker. So we'll do it like a poly extrude. And up at the back. Something like that. Now we need background. We'll just display like a texture on a grid is what I'm thinking. Let's do a camera, get our position all right here. Lock this, and now we can adjust here. 5, 0, 0. Okay, there we go. Kind of want it to look down, so then we can see the dimension. Okay, so our background. So I kind of was thinking maybe after just a couple of seconds of smoke, that's when the footage would appear. So let's apply a shader to our footage. And then here we can adjust the opacity. So we'll just keyframe this at in frame 1. We want the opacity to be 0, and then I don't know, maybe like after 2 seconds we'll have it start fading in. So let's see, like at frame 48, we're gonna keyframe this at 0, and then we want it to fade in. So 72, we'll change the opacity to 1. So it'll be completely faded in by the 3rd second. But before that, it'll just be invisible is what I'm thinking. Now we can apply the shader for the billowy smoke. If you come down here, it already has a default shader for billowy smoke. You're just gonna have to turn off the temperature because we're not dealing with that. And then you can change the smoke color. When I think of like a crystal ball, I think of like a darker purple maybe. Go to the OBJ, pyro import. We want the render. We want billowy smoke, something purpley. Now we can apply a couple different textures. Like let's do one for our table. We'll just make this white. Call this one table, and I already have a texture. It's just like a sparkly red that I thought might look good on this. We can just drag and drop that on here. And then our background, which I was thinking like a star background, kind of like when you're inside like a fortune teller's hut or something, they have a star background or like a star curtain in the background. So we'll just apply that texture, apply it right there. Let's save, see if we need to make any adjustments here. So right now we shouldn't be able to see any footage inside our crystal ball. Oh, I remember. Okay, so in the material palette under the glass, you're going to have to change the opacity. So just to be able to see the smoke, when you lower it, you should be able to see the object inside. Okay, so that's why we weren't able to see it. We adjusted maybe something like a 0.1, so you can still see the glass ball. It's not like completely invisible, but you can see the smoke inside as well. I think I'm going to increase the light in here just a hair. OBJ, spotlight, and you can adjust the exposure. Let's try 1, maybe even 2. So it's just like a spotlight. I did forget to apply like a metal shader to this rack here, so maybe there is a default shader. Let's do like a silver. Just drag and drop this onto the rack. All right, and then it's just like a trial and error kind of thing. So to increase your smoke density, you go to your billowy smoke and adjust this parameter right here. And then if you want your footage to be brighter, I would recommend adjusting this multiplier here, just making it like a little bit wider. Something, let's try 2, just to see if that comes through a little bit better. Okay. So that's coming in a little bit better. I would recommend turning off this background right here on the surface. I wouldn't make it like reflective or anything like that. Let's just make this like 1 and 0 so you can see the stars. And then if you just play around with it, try to get the footage that get it to look like how you want it to. You want to be able to like see the smoke, but you still want to be able to see the footage. So you just play around with it until you get the results that you want. After that, you should be good to render. So go to the OBJ and go to out. A couple different things that you may want to mess around with. I think I would recommend turning on depth of field and motion blur. And then you also want to heighten up the pixel samples. Something like 8x8, 9x9. In this case, I'm going to do a 10x10 just because I have the time to render, so it's not like on a time crunch or anything like that. You also may want to adjust the reflection quality and the refraction quality if you don't have time like I do, and you need the pixel samples to be a little bit lower. Let's see, stochastic samples is also a good one you might want to work with. Kind of works with like your transparency, your shading, that kind of stuff. Obviously, the higher any of these numbers are, the longer it's going to take to render, but I guess it just depends on how good you want it to look like, how good you want it to look, and how much of a time crunch you're on. Other than that, you're probably good to render. So let me know if you guys have any questions about this. Let me know if you would go about it a different way. I'm sure there's plenty of ways to like make this footage seem kind of ghost-like, kind of transparent. You can maybe even mess around with the opacity of the footage if it's coming through a little too strong. Just let me know. I'd love to hear if you take a crack at this crystal ball simulation yourself, and we're all here to learn, so if you have any tips or tricks, let me know. If you do have any suggestions on other projects you'd like to see me tackle on, just go ahead and ask. I'm sure we could figure it out together. So anyway, that's all for today. I appreciate you guys watching. I know it's been a while since I've done one of these Houdini tutorials. That intro 4-parter one took a lot out of me, so I had to take a little break. But otherwise, I will talk to you guys later. Bye!